Look, from an investment perspective, anything that comes with a land would attract some sort of growth, right? And so if you have a choice between buying a freehold land versus buying a land in a strata or a land in or in a subdivision, for example, then you would rather always go for a freehold title. And so the typical example that you've given is an amazing example. And so a lot of these infill developments where they're building townhouses, my preference would always be to buy the front lot, which is usually on its own title, and forget the lots at the back or forget the lots on the side, because it comes with its premium land, which means that the prices would go up. Does the prices at the back lots go up as well? Yes, potentially they would, because they are so tightly controlled markets, right? But if it was an apartment, you wouldn't see that growth. And so people need to understand that even apartments are sold as off the plan properties. And some of these tightly held areas where there are school zones, there are, high-end houses, to create an affordable product, a developer would come in and do a 3-level apartment or a 4-level apartment building. And people would naturally think that, I would get growth in there too. You don't, it's always associated with the land. The land drives or attracts the demand. Of course, there are some limitations to this methodology, right? You think about Bondi, you think about Point Piper, if there are apartments there, they're still selling at 1.5, 2 million, 3 million, even 5 million apartments, right? Or penthouses, etc. And so you see some growth coming through some of these areas too. And so it's a completely niche and a different market, but usually doesn't happen everywhere. You can't replicate this to Gold Coast or to Melbourne or to Brisbane or to Adelaide.
So let's sort of break it down and summarize a little bit in terms of when it's a good time to consider house and land gone off the plan. So we talked around, getting some government grants, being able to have smaller deposits to hold onto as well. I just wanted to add another benefit of potentially buying off the plan is that with deposits, you can, instead of tying up your deposit, you can use tools like deposit bonds. So
yes.
You pay dollars if something's going to settle in 2 years or so, you're not tying up your funds there.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's there. Typically, you're buying in an area that's going to be, there's a whole lot of investment that goes into infrastructure, new shops, and all of that, new schools. That's why you pay really high contributions, because that all goes towards that. What are some other things we covered in terms of why it's not a bad idea? We talked about it being generally a better area for owner occupiers as well, and newer properties. So you've got newer properties, new streets, so on and so forth. Is there anything that we've missed from that part in terms of why it's a good idea?
The only caveat to all of this is, as an owner-occupier, if you're looking to enter into the market and you have a really low deposit, then, house and land would be a perfect fit for you, okay? The other thing that I always say to people as an investor, if you don't have a lot of money and you are still keen on investing, then house and land could be a great place to start, right? Because ultimately you're entering into the market. Entering into the market is the key. A lot of people wait for those big bang deposits, and I say, look, if you only have 20K that you would buy an expensive car for, just put it towards the land, right? It's simple as that. Rather than waiting for that $50,000 or $100,000 that you're going to build up. Yeah, you would get an opportunity to sell. Potentially in Melbourne, you could flip it or you can settle it, and there is a small risk that is attached to it. And so, if you talk about investment grade property, I think house and land packages sit at the lowest level, when you talk about the scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the best and 1 being the lowest. Probably house and land sits somewhere around 2 or 3, just above apartments. Because there is land attached to it, you would still see growth coming through. You can't discount and say, there would be no growth. There would definitely be growth in these properties. It's not that it wouldn't. So that's the key thing. Ultimately, if you talk about the risks, what are the key risks when you think about these properties? Naturally, people treat a lot of these properties as a gambling exercise, right? You would buy 3 land or 4 land or 5 land, you don't need to pay a lot of money. You can pay $5, $10, $15,000 and hold, on each property and hold 5 properties or 8 properties or how many X you want, in anticipation that these properties would grow by $20,000 each, and 10 properties at $20,000, at $200,000 that you can make in 2 years. It works in the seller's market, but it wouldn't work in the buyer's market. And so I've seen people getting caught where they had 5 titles on themselves and they were holding them to make a quick $100,000 over 2 years, and the market changed, or the market switched, or the demand disappeared, or there was excess supply coming through. And all of a sudden now you're in a position where you need $1 million or $1.5 million to settle these, and you don't have that sort of serviceability because there is no income attached to it. You can't back out of the contract because these contracts are usually done in such a way that there is no finance clause attached to it. And so you are right on the risk from day one. And so now you're losing your deposits on 4 properties at $40,000, settling one, making it $20,000. And so you're netting off basically nil or in a negative $20,000 position. And so be careful in relation to the risks and understand that, you're not at the risk for $20,000, you're at a risk for the full price of the contract. That's naturally what people need to understand when buying some of these things.